Today's episode of the Binder Podcast is brought to you by the Columbia Museum of Art's 75th anniversary sponsors, including Masterpiece Mavens Melissa Blanchard and James Kirk Samsel, Art Angels sponsors Dominion Energy and Joyce Martin Hill, Cultural Champion sponsors Abacus Planning Group, Blue Cross Blue Shield of South Carolina, Mr. and Mrs. David E. Dukes, First Citizens Bank, Quackenbush Architects and Planners, and Hannah and Ron Rogers. Thank you to them and all of our 75th anniversary sponsors. And now, let's start the show.
Do you notice I've redone things in
I
here?
have noticed it, and I love it.
Yeah.
It's got our award up here. It's got this beautiful sign over here, which when I first looked at it, I was like, are we doing stuff back behind the curtain now?
Yeah, it's behind the curtain. It's where the magic happens.
Yeah.
It's where I used to hide.
I know. And every now and then a little hand would pop out, you know.
Yeah, I realized at a certain point that was not working. Like, you did not understand my directions.
It's like,
When I was just... I didn't know how else to communicate with you back then. That's why I just sit on that bench now.
My favorite was the foot.
Yeah. We've come a long way.
we really have.
We're at like, for the main feed, we're at like 50 episodes.
That's a trip.
Yeah.
50 episodes.
50 episodes.
It doesn't feel like 50 episodes.
At a certain point, we will reach the amount of episodes that also is your age.
Oh, then we got to do something special for that.
Yeah, when is that?
That'll be in 3 more episodes. You're listening to Binder. I'm your host, Ray McManus. All right, well, welcome back to Binder. I'm your host.
Ray McManus.
Ray McManus. It's December, Drew.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know. And it's my favorite month. Actually, November and December are my favorite months. And the reason being, I love the fact, first of all, it really is, it feels like those are 2 months really of just giving, you know? The museum is giving a really wonderful gift to its patrons. And dude, I'm excited, man.
You know, Ray, we were just talking about a second ago that I'll probably cut, or maybe I'll just add it in. But we were just talking about the fact that we're like 50-ish episodes here now. And what a true podcaster move you just made. I just wanted to point that out to everyone listening, that Ray of episode 1 could have never made as seamless a transition as you just did. And I am impressed. But yeah, no, it is a time of giving gifts, and this is such a wonderful gift to be able to give to the whole community, in that we are going to be reopening the CMA Collection on January 17th, but we're going to have a opening grand unveiling at the gala on January 16th, so they'll get a little special preview before the rest of us get a walk in the next day.
Yeah.
This is a big deal.
It's huge, man.
This was such a labor of passion and love and exhaustion for our team to be able to get us to this point. And, you know, today on the podcast, we're going to be able to hear from some of the very integral team members that have really been conceptualizing this for a very long time. But they were just a fraction of the amount of people that had to touch a project like this.
Oh, yeah.
It took everybody.
And just how much planning it took. This has really been in the works for quite some time. So to achieve this moment is going to be fantastic, but it just doesn't end there, right? I mean, it continues on with what, we have talked a lot about, the magic of this place and how many times you can come through the galleries and you'll always see something new. There's always something new. Now you're going to see the galleries in a new way, and then get to continue on, seeing new things, actually literally seeing new things, and then seeing things anew. And that, for the story of this place, is so important. The museum has been around for a while, and
75 years.
75 years. The banners out there don't lie. And it's been in this space for quite some time. And it has seen changes. It has seen Columbia change. And, it's just exciting.
Yeah.
And I find myself, Drew, you're going to find this hard to believe. I find myself, when I think about it, at a loss for words. I know, I couldn't even say that with a straight face.
I was very shocked. I quite literally was at a loss for words because I've never heard Ray say that in my entire life.
I couldn't even say that with a straight
face. Yeah. You had me going there for a second. But, I get it because this will be the third installation of the collection in the time that I've been here. Probably the same for you as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And, every curator is going to have their own take. But I really think this is going to be a very different looking set of galleries.
Yeah.
And I am actually very excited. And full disclosure, I haven't seen it either.
Yeah.
It'll be new to me too. I
Yep.
can guess. I have the benefit of being able to see the little 3D model they have downstairs. Kind of looks like a gallery dollhouse the way they have it set up. But that's all I have to go off of. I've not seen any of it in person. And, part of me wants to go in there. Part of me knows that I'm not allowed to go in there. So I will have to wait alongside everyone else. But I can't wait. I can't wait to see what all of this work has come to. And, I think more than that, and selfishly, for the benefit of this podcast, I'm excited to be able to have more stories to tell. And so much of that is driven by the amazing collection that we have. And I've been missing it because, Ray and I have to come up with all these ideas for all these shows.
Yeah.
And I was getting worried I was going to start scraping the bottom of the barrel before long if we didn't get something else. So this is really exciting. If nothing else, just to be able to tell some more stories about art for our community, and be able to share that with everyone, I think is going to be really cool. I did want to say, with this installation, like I was saying, we've had a few previously, and this one's a little different than those.
Yeah.
I know the curators are really focusing more on our collecting areas. We sometimes call it collecting pillars, but I'm convinced that no one knows what that means. But essentially, it's just like the specific types of work that we collect here at the museum, right? So we have 4 major ones. Do you know what they are?
Yes. Asia, Europe, America, modern and contemporary.
Oh, I'm so proud of you. Yes. I am so proud. I didn't even plan a quiz today. I just pulled that up out of nowhere.
Well, after the last quiz.
Yeah.
Right. Give Ray a break. Yeah. Poor guy.
Go back and listen to that one if you want to hear his thoughts on the Library of Congress and the U.S. House of Representatives. We have these 4 areas of the collection. I think a lot of people probably ask, why those in Columbia, South Carolina, right? It's a complicated answer, but I would say a lot of it was really driven by a lot of generous donors throughout the years that sort of started us off in specific directions.
Yeah, I was going to say, you talk about the Crest collection. That's just a substantial collection.
Yeah.
European is going to be one of the areas.
Exactly. That's a great point. And it's not that we didn't have any European works in the collection prior to that. But that was a really big starting off point for leading us into a direction of becoming an international museum.
Mm-hmm.
Asia's another example of how did y'all come across so much Asian work? And that's a lot more recent.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of that came from Dr. Turner. He gave a lot of gifts to the museum over the years, not just in Asian art. He actually gave us a lot of ancient works as well, Greek and Roman works. So it's he had a lot of different interests, but one of the major sets of gifts that he gave us here was the big starting points for our Asian collection. A lot of them were first on view for the first time in 2008. So we had an exhibition. It was called Eye to the East, the Turner collection of Chinese art. And so it was really about the Chinese works that he'd given us, a lot of them from much earlier periods. And that was such a great gift. And we have so many really cool and unique objects from that you really can't see anywhere else in in South Carolina for sure. So like, I think that's something that makes us really special here at the museum. So like, I mean, it is the history of like the generosity of others that has really helped us build the collection that we have today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody has the things in this collection that they really love, you know. I mean, you know, I think if you ask Ray and I to name our top 5 favorite pieces in the collection, there'd probably be no overlap, you know?
Yeah. No,
because
absolutely.
we have completely different tastes.
Absolutely.
Mine's better, but you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what I love is the direction of the storytelling that this is going to take us into.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, because the galleries before, it really was about telling the story of the world around us, the country we live in some cases, the state we live in. And this is going to still do that, but it's also going to tell the story of the museum, which has been an integral part to Columbia, has been an integral part to the state of South Carolina. Like you said, there are things in this museum that there's no place else in South Carolina that has it. And there's places in this museum that maybe only one other museum may have a piece of in America. You know,
I mean, in the case of the Botticelli fresco, it's the only place in the United States that you can see
exactly.
that.
And I mean, and that is such a cool thing for us to have such great pride in.
Yeah.
And so I am genuinely excited. I know how hard everyone has worked on this. And I mean, everyone. I don't think there's a single person that's worked in this museum that has not had something to do with this undertaking, because it has been a huge undertaking, right down to the lighting.
I love the sentiment of what you're getting at there. And I also appreciate how much of a way of words you have, Ray, because I feel like you took exactly what I said, but then said it in a way that actually made sense. And I really appreciate that.
But your taste is better than mine.
Yeah, well, you know, we all have our strengths. Well, Ray, I think this seems like a really opportune moment to bring in some folks that have done a lot of work with this project, right? Don't you think?
A lot of work is an understatement. Yeah, let's do that. Let's bring in Sadé.
All right, let's do it. Hey, y'all, welcome back. Producer Drew here again through the magic of editing. I know you just heard me with Ray, but now I am with Sadé, our wonderful curator here and quite the conversationalist as well. You know, her and I talk a lot, but y'all don't ever get to hear that. So this is a special moment for all of us because for the first time ever, I'll be interviewing Sadé on the podcast. And this is just your second appearance on Binder, isn't that right?
It is. It's my second appearance. Glad to be back.
Well, I'm glad to see you in person. So, you know, today we're talking all reinstall. You know, we were talking off-pod right before we started recording, and really this has been something that has been going on since the day you got here.
It's true.
So, you know, what was it like to come into an institution and just immediately hit the ground running on like a massive project like this?
It was overwhelming for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, you know, anytime you show up somewhere and you're new, it's overwhelming because there's all these different people to get to know and understanding the institution as a whole. And then, of course, because I didn't know anything about the collection, that's the other thing, is that I had an opportunity to walk through the previously installed galleries and like look around, but that's like brief, you know, you don't really have a sense. And so it felt like a really huge undertaking, but I think I really saw it as an opportunity to like learn the collection and a really good opportunity to sort of have to get my hands dirty, get my hands in there, ask questions, you know, look through the files, all those things, but also an opportunity to learn how like this curatorial team works, like learn how like my colleagues in curatorial work, which I thought was actually great because I think it can take a long time, maybe several exhibitions to really understand how a team comes together. But I think doing a project this big, you very quickly learn that you have to band together as a group and figure out how to actually get it done, especially because it's a small group. Right. So I think that was the thing that felt like the best opportunity, was just to really learn how everybody was going to come together.
Yeah. And to your point, not only like does it take a few cycles to really get to know your colleagues, but also like most curators don't have the benefit of like having to dive directly into like so many objects in a collection right away, right? You usually learn over the course of many years and through conversations, if you're lucky, right?
Yeah.
But this also did kind of give you an opportunity to really delve into the vault and learn what it is we have to offer. Can you tell me a little bit about that experience and maybe some things that you learned about our collection that, I don't know, were a surprise or that you weren't expecting?
So, I'm trying to go back and kind of think about how this all unfolded. So as far as plans for what we were going to do upstairs, Michael had sort of already come up with like a really basic sort of, this is what we want to do.
Right.
And of course, there was a number of works that kind of are always out, like stars of the show that are always out. But then we had to sort of figure out how to fill in. And so I just spent, hours kind of walking through storage, pulling out all of the painting racks, opening up all of the doors on all of the cabinets and just looking and being like, it's an interesting collection, especially because, I came from a museum that was sort of niche. I mean, I came from the American Folk Art Museum. They have a lot of things sort of under the one umbrella. With this institution having multiple collecting areas and collecting areas that I am not as well versed in, like the Asian collection or even European. I mean, sure, everybody's taken 101, 102, right? But like, I have not spent deep time researching historical European art. And so I think that was a really great way to be able to sort of be sort of surprised.
Right.
I think I was amazed at sort of, I guess, things that would fall under like deck art or material culture. I thought that it was kind of amazing to see how many different sorts of bowls and cups and teapots and, those kinds of things that the collection had. I was also kind of surprised to see the amount of glass that we have in the collection. And it was really kind of cool to stumble upon early works, like early pieces that seem to be from either the Asian collection or the European collection. Now, I'm modern and contemporary by trade. I mean, that's what I studied. So I think the things that really sort of surprised me were the things that were really old. And I wasn't really expecting to stumble across those things.
Yeah. I mean, so first of all, what I just learned is a majority of our collection is very fragile.
Yeah.
Because it's all very breakable objects. It's glass and ceramics.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
At least the things that caught my eye.
Yeah.
Anyway, yes.
But no, I think you actually brought up a really interesting point there. It's like, when you're designing like a big reinstall like this, you are getting input from like the different curators and y'all are coming with your own interests. Like you and Michael have different kind of fields of study. There's some overlap, right?
Yeah.
But like y'all have a different curatorial lens.
Yeah.
And so what was that aspect of like kind of working together to like think through like what objects would go where, because you are coming from different perspectives?
Yeah. So let me think about that, because like I said, what was nice was that we knew from the beginning that we were going to focus on the collecting areas, that we wanted to try to highlight all of the collecting areas. And then we thought to ourselves, we want to try to build in moments where we can have work that might either be from a different time or a different culture to sort of interrupt certain sort of narratives that we're trying to set up in the space. And so, first of all, it was about getting out all of the sort of tried and true works, like the Botticelli, like the Monet, the works, most of the Crest collection that we wanted to show. The works, the works that are going to be there. And that made it kind of easy to say, okay, these rooms are going to be focused on, European art. These rooms are going to be focused on American art. And then, of course, as a lot of listeners know, because of the way that our architecture is set up in the galleries, there's just rooms that are sort of made for certain kinds of work. So that was easy, right? You had like heavy hitters that you knew you were going to put on the wall and you kind of knew where they were going to end up. And then we had a range of rooms that were left over and it was like, what are we going to do here? And I think that's when we started to be able to sort of bounce ideas off of each other in terms of like thematic spaces that we might want to create. And I think despite the fact that Michael and I come from different backgrounds, he's like American art. I'm really contemporary, like really with the work that I'm really interested in my research background. It was still, I think, easy for us to come up with ideas for how we wanted to treat spaces like the Art and Architecture Gallery or the Still Life Gallery, because what we were really interested in as a sort of running theme was how we were going to be able to sort of think about art history as part of the conversation in these galleries. And by that, I mean, there's a number of works that we have multiples, again, cross-culturally, cross-temporally, and so to be able to sort of show the way that something like Still Life goes from a much earlier moment to a much more contemporary moment, in the ways that artists are still wanting to make still life, wanting to grapple with certain themes, wanting to look back to historical moments. It was easy then for us to say, okay, well, we can showcase this and really point to the fact that like art history is like ever going. It's not a thing that just like exists in, pre-19th century. It's a thing that we all still should be looking at as like precedents for looking at art, for making art.
Yeah, I mean, art history is always kind of self-referential, right? And like people that work in that field and are looking at pieces from across history can see it really easily, right? But like the general public, like are usually confronted with a piece at a time.
Exactly.
And maybe they don't always have that context.
Exactly.
And I think that y'all have done a wonderful job with this reinstallation and really helping provide a little bit more of that context. What I think is really cool about this is like, if you look at like the history of this institution.
Yeah.
Previous to the most recent one happened, that was really chronological. That was actually when I started here at the museum. It was very much in a chronological order. You know, you start at ancient, you end at today, right?
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, that's
it's
a great
way to tell a story.
It's a great way to gain a greater understanding and see how these building blocks built on top of each other.
Exactly.
But there is certain context that you'll never get through that sort of scenario. And then in the previous installation that we just had, the thematic installation, it had a lot of that conversation, but then maybe sometimes it didn't always have the context of the historical precedent.
Right.
What I think is really cool here is that y'all have kind of taken the best parts of both of those methods and, put your own little spin on it.
Yeah.
But like, you've really like synthesized what makes both of those like really strong teaching tools. And created something that was unique in its own right,
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And I think you're right. I think it is important to tell a chronological story because it always is interesting and important to see what happens before and then what happens in the middle and what happens in the present. I think that's important. And I think we're able to do that in like many of the rooms. We're able to tell that story again and again. Our galleries are certainly not set up chronologically, as in you start in gallery 1, you're at the oldest stuff, you end up in gallery 20, you're at the newest stuff. So it doesn't do that exactly. But I think that because of the nature of the collection being historical European, historical American, and then modern contemporary, and then mostly historical Asian works, there is definitely a feel like you're going, in and out of spaces that are older and then newer, and having to wonder about the past as you move through each different gallery and think about how it's in conversation, whether it be the gallery that's next door or whether it be the gallery that is like several over and having to think back to where you were. I think that is really built into what we have on offer, and people are reminded again and again that this is a long story of art making. So I hope that actually comes through for people as they're walking through the galleries.
Yeah, I hope so too. We're talking a lot about the galleries, and obviously I don't want to give everything away. Yeah. Like this is going to come out before the galleries have reopened.
Okay.
And so I want there to be surprises. Y'all have worked so hard to, I don't want to rob them of that experience. No. But like, is there any kind of preview you could give me? Is there a gallery that really speaks to you that you think is really exciting and maybe feels very different from something we've done previously?
I would say that Gallery 11, which is going to be a showcase of some works by Winston Wingo, who is an artist who people may know because he's been in this collection for a while. And we've recently shown his work this past summer in Let's Have a Talk. His work was on view. And so we're showcasing, it'll actually be a little sort of mini exhibition of his works that will speak to issues of sort of humanity and technology, will get at questions of sort of Black representation, and will get at questions of futurity. And I think that the work itself is quite tremendous. And I think it'll be really interesting because of where Gallery 11 sits. It's sort of like a juncture in between the sort of more historical works and then the modern and contemporary sort of wing. And I think it's actually kind of interesting to put it there because, you know, in the Crest collection as we're presenting it, there really isn't like Renaissance sculpture. And, you know, because the works that Wingo will be presenting by Wingo are all sculptures, and there is this sort of classical reference.
Right, because they're all like busts,
They're all
right?
busts.
Yeah.
There's even one that's actually like a torso, and then they're all, you know, bronze. And so there is this sort of call back to a much earlier, more classical style of sculpture, but he definitely is taking it in a totally different direction. I like the fact that when you're standing in the sort of European galleries, you can look down and see his works in this sort of octagon space and think about this like bridge, like think about what may be missing from those galleries. And then because his work is totally contemporary, it's like leading you into this next space where you'll see more contemporary artists and the work that they have at play. So I actually think it's like really great what his work will do on its own, but also how it speaks to the work that we already have in the collection, especially works that people will be maybe used to seeing because, again, these are some of the heavy hitters, right?
Right.
So I think that's really great. And in general, I think Gallery 11, which is going to be a rotating gallery, a gallery where we'll put contemporary artists' work over time, I think it's great because I think it'll give an opportunity for people to see maybe artists that they've never seen before. It's an opportunity for us to think about gaps that we need to fill in the collection. And so highlighting artists that can do that. And because it's one of those octagon spaces, like one of the 2 octagon spaces, which I think are just cool, like sort of physical experiences to have. I think that it'll be nice to sort of be surrounded in that gallery with new and interesting works. We're going to try to keep it fresh in there. I'm looking forward to people's reactions as they get to see this sort of mini exhibition by Winston Wingo.
Yeah, no, I think that's going to be really cool. You know, not to brag, but I get to go into the back rooms of this place sometimes.
Yeah.
And, I got to see a few of the Wingo works
cool.
that are going to be on display, and they are very eye-catching.
Yeah, they're cool.
Not just because I could see my reflection in it,
right?
But that didn't hurt either. Let me tell you.
That's actually the reason.
Yeah, I said, what was that handsome sculpture over there?
Good.
No, but like they really are very cool. And like I'm just excited, listeners at home, if you've been to the museum and if you've been to that gallery, it is the one that usually has 4 paintings and a big round seat in the middle.
Yeah.
And so you probably know exactly what I'm talking about when I say that it has sort of had a similar vibe for a really long time. This is not going to feel like that whatsoever.
No.
And that is just a small taste of the many big changes that will be happening with this installation. I think it's going to feel very different from what we've done previously. And I think it's so exciting. I know that it takes a really long time to put together a project like this. This is more than like the curatorial team sitting down with some, and even though this is part of it, they sit down with some chips with the pictures and they like look at how they all look next to each other. Yeah. And there is that aesthetic consideration happening, of course. But there's so much more research and time that goes into like really learning about these works. Like Sadé had to learn so much about so many pieces of art that probably had never crossed her path before she stepped foot in the doors of this museum, you know? And like, I want people to understand the amount of time and effort it takes to do something like this well and to be considerate about it. And the fact that like, even though y'all did have like a shorter window of time, like you really used that time to the best of your ability to do something that is very strong and really is going to be able to help educate others about like what we have here at the museum.
Absolutely. And I was so lucky to be able to, again, going back to my colleagues in the department, I was so lucky to be able to work with amazing people who have so much knowledge of what we have. But I learned so much just from talking to the other people in the department who have been here from, 3 years to 25 years, right? And they know so much about the collection that if I even had an idea, just threw out an idea about a theme and do we have anything that would fit? And, being able to have those conversations about what we did have and, what we didn't have. And it's just been quite an amazing sort of exploratory experience and made a lot easier by the fact that everybody just is so generous and forthcoming with all of their knowledge of this place and this collection. So I think that definitely made it a lot easier.
Sadé Ayorinde is a curator here at the Columbia Museum of Art and has been working on the reinstallation of the CMA Collection galleries. See the results for yourself at the grand unveiling during the 75th anniversary gala on January 16th. Coming up,
it's kind of old school the way we do it. We have SketchUp, which is a program that like architects use and museums use, but we actually never use it for this project. We only, because there was something easier about the tactility of being able to walk into the office like every Monday morning and stand in front of this model for an hour and just talk about it.
Michael Neumeister, after this.
Hey y'all, producer Drew here. Usually I'd be coming in right now to do a little ad read, but I wanted to try something different because on January 16, we have a big event happening here at the museum. It's the return of the CMA Gala. It's also the return of our collection upstairs. It's all kind of coinciding and happening at once, and it's going to be a really exciting time. And so Alexis Doctor is our Associate Director of Events here at the museum and a pretty cool person. So I'm excited to talk to her today about what we have going on at the gala. How you doing, Alexis?
I'm doing well. That was quite an introduction. Thank you.
Oh, well, that's what my job is. Then I get to have you talk from here on out. But, so the theme of this gala is travel.
It is. So we have actually been witnessing a huge undertaking of renovation in this building. And because of that, we had to remove all the art from the galleries. So with the reinstallation, it was an opportunity for the curatorial team here to rethink how everything was situated and how everything was presented. And in their restructuring of the galleries, they actually are reinstalling the art in a way that highlights areas of collection. So we thought, how fun would it be to honor that and mimic that kind of areas of the world where all of our wonderful art comes from? So while we are thinking about an Asian wing, a European wing, an American wing with the artwork, we sort of stumbled onto this almost world tour vibe and thought, let's play with that. So we are dividing some of our key spaces, our landmark areas in this building, into wings, so to speak. We will also have some themed food, some themed drinks and cocktails. So we really hope that people will travel truly from space to space and feel like each area honors that country, honors that continent, honors the different areas that we are telling them they are entering.
Yeah. Obviously, like a big event like the gala, like the food and drink is always going to be something that is going to be really exciting for folks.
Absolutely.
But, it's never just that, right?
Correct.
Like, we always have some fantastic entertainers.
We do.
And this gala is no different. So can you tell me a little bit about who will be there to entertain us?
So upstairs in the loft will be our modern contemporary wing, and we have the Root Doctors scheduled to perform for us upstairs. At the same time, we will also have some live musicians throughout the first floor. So we are talking with some local jazz musicians and some local classical musicians, some of whom do have training in different folk music backgrounds. So we are excited for everyone to come and really not only get immersed in food and beverage culinary delights from each area, but really feel immersed in these different cultures through music, through entertainment, etc.
You know, one of the number one questions I think we always get whenever we have a big event like this is, what do I wear? What am I going to wear to this event?
So we have titled this year's dress code Creative Black Tie. We definitely invite people to get a little formal with it if you have that tuxedo from one event in your closet. But if you would like to get a little bit more interesting and creative, we invite people to really imagine what creative black tie means to them. Could be a ball gown. It could be a surrealist painting come to life. So we are excited to see what people come up with.
Now, Alexis, I know this is going to be tough because nobody ever likes to pick favorites. It's like picking between your children, especially when you're the one that's planning this event. But what's one element of this event that you are most excited for?
Really, the theme itself, travel. We are highlighting a lot of really fun elements of the experience of travel. When you think about traveling, some things that come to mind are luggage tags. And when you think about the heyday of air travel, you think about the captain's wings and how honored it would be for a kid or a family to receive a pair of captain's wings. So there's a lot of little Easter eggs that we're going to have throughout the entire event that we really hope tie everything together, that play into this travel theme, but still feel really special and unique. And it will also involve a couple take-homes. So we're very excited that when people leave here and go home, they'll have a little token or 2 or 5 of the evening itself and something to remember how special this night was for years to come, hopefully the next 75 or more.
Well, I hope that all of you at home have gotten really excited by hearing how excited Alexis is for this event. And just as one quick reminder, that's going to be on January 16th, and that's the CMA Gala. If you want to find out more information, you can check out our website, columbiamuseum.org, and just go to Gala. It'll be right there, a big old button on the front homepage. Easy to find. You can get tickets there as well. And we hope to see you all there. Me and Alexis will be there, and I think she's going to help me figure out what to wear, and I'm really grateful for that.
I'm Michael Neumeister, Senior Curator at the Columbia Museum of Art.
Michael, it is good to see you again on the
Good to
show,
see you,
man.
Rick. Yeah,
Hey,
it's been a while.
This is what I think. Are you a 5-timer now?
Oh, God, yeah, it might be. 4, 5?
4. One more
4.
time.
Drew
Yeah.
says 4.
Yeah, one more time, and then you reach Glenna status.
Glenna's only been on it 4 times.
5.
I'm actually surprised.
She's 5. Unless she snuck one in on me and I didn't know
It's
about
possible.
it. It's possible. Glenna's shifty like that. Michael, you've been pretty busy these past few days, right? Only days.
Only it takes a few days to
Only takes-
reinstall the collection.
Right. You're just
No big
throwing
deal.
things on the wall, right?
Yeah.
This is really an exciting time. I mean, after folks hear this, it will really be only a mere couple of weeks, and things are going to be back.
That's scary.
It is.
That's
It is scary.
Utterly frightening.
It's- but you guys have been very busy. And I know folks who've been around the museum have now seen some different iterations of the galleries. And now this is going to be a new experience again with even some new work in there. We're going to dive in, obviously, because I do want to talk about the different nuances and all the things that go into trying to put something this massive together. Because it's not like just putting up a show downstairs or something. I mean, there's a lot going on here. But just in general, what should we expect when we come in?
Well, I think for people who are familiar with the museum, our ambition was sort of, we didn't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. We wanted to make sure there were a lot of familiar and important pieces that the public really loves and admires and that are central to our collection and to our history. But we also wanted to, I mean, this is a great opportunity to get things out of storage that haven't seen the light of day in years. And so we sort of thought about broadly about, well, what are the ways that we can present these objects like familiar objects with things that haven't been on view in a long time and create conversations between them. So there's a lot of that going on and hopefully in ways that people will pick up on. I think every time there's been a collection reinstallation in this building since 1998, and this is the 4th one, we have had a pretty good host of outside loaned artworks on view to sort of beef up our collection, and this time is no different. So we got a great suite of works on loan from the National Academy of Design in New York, and they'll be here for about 2 years. And that, of course, was supported by Art Bridges, which is a wonderful organization that helps us out a lot. So we'll be fleshing out the modern and contemporary collection in really cool, dynamic ways. And does that answer your question?
No, it does. I mean, because I think, we have seen the galleries move from sort of the chronological and then rearranged to more thematic. And then now it's sort of arranged.
It's like a middle ground almost.
Yeah.
Like to your point, in '98 it was this chronological, and back then I should say we had a lot less gallery space upstairs. We had maybe 4,000 to 6,000 square feet less. So in 2017-18, when we moved from the chronology to the thematic, I think one of the reasons that we did that was kind of practical. It allowed us to bring kind of more diverse objects out of the collection and fill up these new galleries in kind of different ways, and ways that maybe we were like, can we actually fill this much space, or did we? Or did the architecture move faster than the collection? It didn't really, but it takes a lot of time to think about that architecture and in conversation with the collection itself. So now with the benefit of, almost 8 years, I guess, since we lived with that collection, our collection has grown. And so the result, I think, will be this middle ground where we're highlighting our 4 collecting areas, which are European art, American, Asian art, and modern and contemporary. So we're going to have dedicated spaces to each of those collecting areas, but we're also going to have a few spaces that'll be more thematic. Sometimes it'll be organized around a medium or a certain suite of objects, like we have a decorative arts gallery, which is really great. And then in other cases, it'll be like little exhibitions that are, in this case, around 2 artists. One of them, Winston Wingo from South Carolina, and another, Jasper Johns, who's also from South Carolina.
Right.
We love to claim him. And then we also will have a gallery on still life, a little gallery that's talking about conversations between the history of art and architecture and their conversations in the 20th century and so on. So like there are these moments that the galleries are punctuated by that hopefully offer these new conversations to be had and new insights into the collection.
That is so cool, but dude, that's a lot of work.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
I mean, so let's talk about that. I mean, because
the process,
we're going to see the product, and I do think, and I do think it's going to be cool, but I can't even wrap my head around how do you go from everything's off the wall. I'm assuming you're not doing any work while stuff's still sitting up there, so everything's off the wall, and then you've got to lay this thing out.
Yeah, I mean, the very first step, even before we started taking stuff down, was we looked at basically every single painting in the collection and opened every cabinet of sculpture and decorative arts and ceramics and thimbles and whatever kind of crazy stuff is in there. In other words, we laid eyes on almost every single object in the collection. You find a lot of surprising things when you're going through stuff. And there's paintings that have not been on view for 20-something years, sometimes for silly reasons, like, oh, the frame is just kind of beat up, but the work is fine. It's like, well, we just need to send this out to be conserved. So we got 14 objects conserved in the lead up to this, working with 3 or 4 different conservators all over the place, which was a logistical nightmare. So not for on our end, really, not because of anyone else's. So that was like, okay, the first step is, what do we need conserved to get out on the walls? The next step is, what are the works that absolutely must go out? It's like, well, we have to show the Botticelli. We have to show certain works from the Crest collection because they're so iconic and important to the CMA's history.
Right.
You know, all of the most important paintings and sculptures and so on, we had that list. And that was only maybe, believe it or not, 30 objects as far as Sadé and I could sell. You know, and it ranged from the Monet to a Sam Gilliam to the Ribera and everything in between. But then it was like, well, we have a lot of room to play now. And then it's like, well, we have to look at the architecture of the space. We're modeled after the National Gallery of Art, so we have these really kind of regal-looking and traditional galleries with this molding that rises and falls throughout the space, which makes certain spaces more suitable for modern and contemporary art than others. So it's like, well, this architecture in this gallery is calling for this. let's start filling it with stuff. That's literally the process. And then it's like, well, what gets left out? What doesn't? Making some hard decisions, really.
Yeah.
This gets all laid out on a 2D scale model where we have what we call chips in the museum biz, which is little scale maquettes of every artwork in the collection. So they're like 2-inch little paintings that we stick on our little scale model on the wall. And then we play with that for like 6 months.
I mean, again, dude, this is so cool.
Yeah,
I mean, like my ADD is like just going nuts thinking about how you would I mean, there's just so much.
And it's pretty low tech. It's kind of old school the way we do it. We have SketchUp, which is a program that like architects use and museums use, where you get like these digital 3D models of your space, and then you can lay things out. But we actually never use it for this project. We only, because there was something easier about the tactility of being able to walk into the office like every Monday morning and stand in front of this model for an hour and just talk about it and move stuff around, which is like something that you kind of lose when you're sitting in front of a computer all day.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely.
That was the fun part, was having the conversations. And then the challenging part is, oh God, what do we have to cut? And when are we too ambitious? When are we too big for our britches? You know, we have this idea and we're laying it out as we speak. So by the time this podcast comes out, I really hope that it's done.
No pressure.
Yeah. So we're laying out, we had this thought for Gallery 2, which is right to the right of the entrance of the space. Originally, we were like, well, we want to tell a little story about the institutional history of the museum. And we want to do that right at the front, like near the entrance. So people can walk in, and if you've never been to the CMA before, you can get a sense of what we collect and why, and how long we've been around, and how we've evolved over those 75 years. And we kind of want to tell this story in like one space, cut it off at the pass, and then invite you to explore the rest of the space with all that in mind. And we were working on this. We had all these different like important objects. So in that space, we had like the first painting we ever purchased, which was a Charles Wilson Peale portrait of General George Washington. Really important, from the 1950s that we bought it. And it's like pretty important for Columbia to have that. Yeah. It's like, okay, well, that's got to be on view because that tells the history of the first painting that we ever bought here. And then, well, we need something from the Crest collection in that room because that's like the most important early gift that we got. Like a lot of firsts were coming up. And then when we got all these firsts together in this room on the model, we just realized that this doesn't really make any sense. You know, or we got these like important paintings or these important decorative arts, and they weren't actually talking to each other at all. So I just said, what happens if we just do a salon wall and just put all this stuff on the wall and tell a bigger story that way, whatever. And then it's like, well, how does the salon wall make any sense? Well, because for the first decades of the museum's history, we basically only collected almost exclusively representational art. So portraiture, landscape, still life was the most commonly acquired things. Mm-hmm. So let's do that. Let's basically leave out abstraction. We cheat slightly. There's one painting that's sort of an abstract landscape. Leave that out because that was mostly from the latter half of our history, and have these two adjoining walls that are just like all of this interesting stuff. We're laying that out now. It turned out to be 53 paintings, which is an enormous amount of paintings, and the gallery's not that big. So we need to make them fit physically into the size of the wall, measure them out and space them, and then hang them on the walls one at a time, which is an enormous amount of labor.
You bet. And I know that, you know, I think once this is all said and done and folks are going to see this final product, I mean, you know, I think everyone's going to know it took a massive amount of work to get through, but the length of time that you guys have taken, the attention that y'all have paid to this, I would assume that when it's all done and you and Sadé walk through the gallery before anybody else does, is it going to be an emotional experience, you think?
I hope so. I mean, I hope that I hope it's a positive emotional experience.
That would suck if it wasn't. Oh my God, what have we done?
Yeah, I think I'll say this. It happens with every show too. Like you walk through and there's always one or two places where I wish I just did that differently. Mm-hmm. I think that's inevitably going to happen. But we have at least 150 or 160 works installed like right now. of the 340 or 330 that it will ultimately be. So we're almost halfway there. Things are looking really impressive. I must say, I'm
good.
really impressed.
Yeah.
All the paint colors are new. Almost every single gallery has a different paint color. I mean, we worked with 2 outside consultants. That took a week on its own, or maybe even more, just figuring out what the paint colors were and how the paintings match the paint colors. Obviously, we have all new lights across the galleries, which will definitely make a difference.
Yeah.
In terms of just the way we can dial them in more cleanly than ever before. We always had good quality lighting, but it was just old.
Right.
It was just from 1998. This is much sleeker in design, and there's just more you can do with it, and it's easier to work with.
Yeah, as my kids remind me, the end of the 1900s, that was a long time ago.
Oh my God, it was.
So how many galleries are we talking?
20.
20 galleries.
Yeah.
So is there a particular one that you're excited about? I know that's a hard question. I mean, you're excited about all of them.
Yeah, I think a couple of them, I think Sadé and I both kind of have our babies, like the ones that we sort of worked on more intently. And for me, it was a sculpture gallery. It's American sculpture from about 1860 to about 1960. So it's 100 years of American sculpture. It's only like 7 objects, I think. But the cool thing, it came about because we have kind of a nice, tight collection of American sculpture from that period, and very few had been on view. And this was I thought this would be really a nice opportunity for people to, and there's nothing on the walls. It's just cases in the round, which is something that we had never done before. So there was a lot of measuring and playing with the casework and which cases look the best in this space, and do they match the molding, and like that kind of design element. But also, does this marble look better next to the bronze, or should this be next to the other marble? And then we actually moved something out of that gallery the other day. We're in that kind of refining mode right now, where it's like, oh, well, this one doesn't look that great next to the wall color. Or this one's telling a better story in conversation with this other piece 3 galleries after. Why didn't we think of this before? Like thematically. And so it's a lot. But yeah, that gallery is going to be really cool. It's like a forest of sculptures, it feels like. You could just kind of walk through it and meander, and everything is in the round, which is not always easy to do with spatial limitations.
Sure.
So yeah, I'm pretty stoked about that gallery.
First of all, I think that is so cool to have spaces like that. I mean, because one of the things that we've talked a lot about on this show, one of the things that's always been compelling for me in this space is the storytelling that takes place in the galleries. And when you're working with 3-dimensional objects, and you're talking about the stories that it's telling, and you can take so many different approaches around that. So I'm personally excited about going in and seeing that particular piece, that gallery, and seeing those pieces. But is there any pieces that you're kind of excited about? Are folks being able to come in that have been here, they've seen all, but there's some new things that are coming out here that haven't been on display?
Well, yeah, again, it was originally slated for the sculpture gallery, but it has just moved. It was this, I discovered in our assessment of the collection, which had to be a year ago now, when I was looking through every bin and opening every drawer, this sculptor that I had never heard of named Marguerite Stix, and she was active in the 50s and 60s mostly. So she's born in Vienna. She's Jewish. She has to escape to France in the middle of World War II when the Germans invade. Then she has to escape from France. She finds herself in New York in the 40s. She had always been an artist, and then she was really interested in ceramics. But she started this figurative sculpture practice with these really interesting, like elongated, thin figures that kind of remind me of Giacometti. But she used this greenish patina, and there's this kind of dynamism and beauty to them that is really all her own. And we have a couple of works by her. And one of them is called Paolo and Francesca. Doing the research on it, Paolo and Francesca were real people in the Italian Renaissance. And they were kind of star-crossed lovers. And Paolo was killed by his brother because Francesca was married to his brother. And so this is documented. I'm sorry, I said Renaissance Italy. It's actually medieval because this is documented in Dante. So in Dante's Inferno, Paolo and Francesca are in one of the circles of hell. And so Marguerite Stix made this incredible sculpture of these two figures. Their hands are just sort of intertwined, but not quite touching. They're like maybe a couple of centimeters apart. The fact that they're not quite touching speaks to their ill fate, I think, that they couldn't be together in life. It's such an incredibly powerful piece. I hope other people feel that way when they see it.
So,
I hope that it resonates for them.
well, they will now because they'll hear this story and they'll be like, damn.
But, you know, that's like, those are the cool things for curators. It's like, oh man, this artist I'd never heard of. And you look her up and she's in tons of major museums. She's at the Chrysler Museum, Virginia Museum of Fine Arts, Whitney, like all of these museums showed her, have her work, and kind of nobody talks about her.
Yeah.
You know? So this was a cool moment. Maybe the monograph will come out. Maybe we'll start people talking about Marguerite Stix again, you know.
They should. She's got a great name.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, come on.
Exactly.
We talked a lot about you and Sadé and the work that y'all have done, but obviously y'all weren't the only two that did. I mean, there's a lot of folks, which is really an integral part of the meta story of this museum, is just how many people it takes to do one thing.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it'd be great for our listeners to hear a little bit about all of the different sort of folks here in the museum that have to play a role in all of this.
Yeah, well, in the curatorial department, we're small but mighty. We have, you know, of course, our registrar, Rebecca, who only started a year ago and jumped right in to this project. Well, every time an object is moving, of course, she's conditioning it, noting it, documenting it, and then changing its location in the database. And she's supported by Noelle, who is our collection specialist, who is our guru of the collection. So Noelle's been here for 27 years or something like that. And right before this meeting, she and I were going over some labels, and I could just tell her the accession number, and she knows exactly which object I'm talking about, which is kind of insane.
Yeah.
And so, you know, so they're doing tremendous amount of work. Our preparators, Daniel and Laura, are the ones hanging every single piece. They're installing every single piece. Two people installing every single piece. You know, we do get some contract support as well. I should say our contract preparator who most frequently works here is named Jackie, who actually used to work at the CMA and probably has been on this podcast before. We had our curatorial assistant who unfortunately just left, David, who did quite a bit in terms of researching things and organizing things and a lot of administration on the curatorial side. And yeah, every single person in this building plays a pretty significant role. And you know, nobody knows about it unless the communication team gets it out. Nobody has a tour unless the tours are developed, and nobody knows that tours exist unless they're on the website. And nobody leads the tours if we don't have docents and educators. And I mean, it's on and on and on. So yeah, it's a big deal.
I mean, our listeners can't see it. I've had a permagrin this entire episode, just listening to you. I mean, because I'm genuinely excited. I mean, you know, it's not that I ever felt like when I walked through the galleries that this is old or this is played. You know, a lot of times walking through, especially like if Glenna has a lot of teachers, and so we'll be doing something together, and I'm always picking up something new, or not physically picking up something new, but you know, no, I won't do that.
Don't tell my registrar.
Yeah, no, I don't touch a thing, just for the record. But this is going to be a new experience, and yet I love the fact that you found ways to continue the story of this place along with all of the stories that are being told on the walls to each other, to everybody that walks in. You know, as a writer in resident, my mind is well, of course, and also the ADD is just going 90 miles an hour of all kinds of really cool things that I'd love for us to be able to do in the galleries and bringing people in and thinking about so many things. But I would be remiss if I let you leave if you couldn't just say, you know, how much you love me and Drew. No, how much if there was a way, and this is going to be hard, a way that you could somehow boil this down to a sentence, all right? It's going to be hard for you, Michael.
This is,
Okay.
yeah, it is.
All right. So
I've
one sentence now that you would tell all the folks that are about to come in, like the doors have not opened yet.
I've been uncharacteristically verbose in this podcast, and so asking me to boil it down at this moment seems difficult. But I would say this. The Columbia Museum of Art has the best collection of art in the state and for many, many hundreds of miles, period. And 350 of those objects are on view as of January 17th, and you would do yourself a favor to come and see them.
Michael Neumeister is the senior curator here at the Columbia Museum of Art. He, alongside the rest of the curatorial team, have been involved in a year-long effort to reinstall the CMA Collection galleries. You can learn more information about the newly installed CMA Collection at our website, columbiamuseum.org. You don't get a lot of do-overs in life. Life just seems to move in one direction, and if you think of it as an escalator, you're just constantly moving up to going to, well, wherever we go. But every now and then, you get to relive an experience. I personally have been able to do that, not just once, but by the time we hear this episode, twice, with the birth of my grandsons. Having children, getting to live that experience. Of course, children grow older and they go off and they do their own thing. And as parents, we think back and we miss. But to be grandparents, we get to relive all of it all over again, except only the fun parts. I kind of think that is the joy that we yearn for sometimes in life. That you can't always go back, but you can find things anew. The things that you've always known, the things that you've gone to and done and experienced, there's always ways that you can re-experience them in a new way. And if we take the time to do that, what a wonderful gift we get in return. And we're going to get to see that and get to experience that. And I'm here for it. You've been listening to Binder, a production of the Columbia Museum of Art, hosted by me, Ray McManus, production and editing by Drew Barron, special assistance from Joel Ryan Cook. For more information about Binder or CMA exhibitions and programs, visit our website at columbiamuseum.org.
Look at that. Do you know this story?
No.
Okay.
I'm interested.
You're like nodding along, like obviously. Yeah.
No, I'm like, keep talking, man. This is good. I have a bad habit of going, okay, and then Drew has to try to edit all that out.
I think that's a good habit because it makes people feel like you're engaged.
Okay.
You're doing a very good job.
Yeah.